Hello everybody, Professor Howe here. In our classroom version of manufacturing processes, we actually do a real review, so I wanted to give you that opportunity as well. You will find that we'll have quiz questions related to the amount of carbon in carbon steel, the amount of carbon in wrought iron, and in cast iron. We'll also have questions about the ingredients used in various iron and steel products, largely just plain steel or carbon steel. There's a lot of alloy steels out there. I wouldn't expect you to know all of those. Where do these ingredients come from? Well, various ores from around the world. That's not necessarily important to know where, but knowing that we have iron ore, we have things like limestone, we have coke. Those are some major ingredients in the steel making process. Years ago, they cast the pig iron into the floor. They also manufactured, cast iron stoves, products, and to some degree some wrought iron as well. Later, around the 1900s, you've learned that stainless steel came on the scene, and the Sta-Brite. You may have read about Sta-Brite, a name used for stainless. I'm sure you remember the guy that was credited for coming up with stainless steels, and in particular there are some various types of stainless, but let's talk about austenitic, the 2 and 300 series, for just a moment. They can only be cold worked, they cannot be heat treated. They are virtually non-magnetic. They do contain some nickel. Food industry, things like that, uses a lot of 300 series stainless steels. They have good corrosion resistance. The martensitic type were more likely to make knives or cutlery out of those because they can be heat treated, they will hold an edge, they are magnetic. So there's some differences there in stainless steels. Obviously a ferrous metal. Where's aluminum come from? What's its ore? What is it good for? What are its qualities? In other words, is it low strength, high strength? Things like that would be important to know. What industry really benefited from lots of aluminum and the ability to make aircraft skins, just saying, that go over wings and bodies and things like that? Some other things to note. Again, knowing what is needed to manufacture steel, knowing about guys like Bessemer, who in 1856 revolutionized the steel industry by blowing cold air into his Bessemer converter. Knowing about Abraham Darby, creator of coke, Henry Cort, Sidney Gilchrist Thomas. Those folks, you might see questions about those kinds of things. So really our test will talk about steel, iron, wrought iron, cast iron, a little bit on aluminum. One other thing, as we heat treat something like a high carbon steel, we heat treat it up between the upper and lower critical temperatures, that range where we can actually quench it and harden it. When we do quench it, we have a change that takes place, and in that temperature range, when it's very, very hot, we end up with austenite. And if we decide we're not going to harden something and we turn off the oven and let it cool, our austenite turns back to pearlite and ferrite, just the same as the steel was when we put it in the oven. On the other hand, if we go through and we heat the oven up, we heat the steel up, our steel undergoes a change at the critical temperature. It's no longer magnetic. It changes from its steel molecules rearrange. We go to austenite. If we do indeed quench it, our steel is changed permanently, because when we pull it out of that quench tank, we now have a martensitic type of steel. So that steel undergoes a change when it is heated up to that critical temperature, and that crystal structure is actually changed permanently after the material is quenched. All right. If you have other questions, please send me an email.